And we are live. What's going on, crew? I am stoked to talk to you today about mealtime madness because indeed, with type 1 mealtimes, they can get a little crazy sometimes. Give me a hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. We're going to be sending out this to the group, to the crew. But if you're here with me live, I want to know about that too. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen, make sure we do, in fact, have a live stream going. We had some technical difficulties and the camera just showed blank at first. So good news is I think we are in fact live. Looks like we are, so we'll jump in. So if you caught this last week's episode, you probably heard me talk about some slightly controversial topics. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's a good one. You're going to want to check it out. I ranted a little bit talking about the different algorithms and the pumps that we have, the smart insulin pens, and how they may not be the best solution to every single problem that we have. They're helpful, yes, but not always the solution. So while we're jumping in, give me a 1. We got some likes already. I love it. Give me a 1 in the comments if you are here with me live, if you can hear me. And this is a microphone. Hopefully it's set up properly, not super, super loud or quiet. But give me a 1 in the chat if you can hear, and we'll jump in with some participation in today's live. I got some questions for you guys to see who we've got and what types of diabetes management you are running. So first thing we're going to jump into is looking at the smart insulin pens and the insulin pumps that have algorithms. That's the first topic for today with the mealtime madness, because even though it's supposed to help, all this new technology that we've got, right? I got one right here. Check that out. You can even see, oh my goodness, you can see the line from where the previous one was. I got to make sure I scrape that off next time. My goodness. But I got the technology on me as well. I got an insulin pump on my hip for now. We'll see how long that lasts. I might be changing things up in a little bit. But looking at these technologies, I want to see who is, first we'll do this. If you're wearing a pump, drop the word pump in the chat. I want to see how many insulin pump users. And then once we go there, that'll give me an idea of if we should stick talking the pumps only or if we should move over to MDI or multiple daily injections as well. So what we're looking at with the algorithms these days, essentially it's this mathematical equation that is going to take a few things into consideration. If you start the podcast episode from this week, you know what I'm talking about. Looking at your blood sugars, the insulin, your correction factors, basal bolus, essentially gathering data and making decisions based off of that. And actually we have, I don't know if these are going through. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Oh, there we go. Bev says pump. Perfect timing. So we got a pump user. We'll stick with pump for now. If you're MDI or multiple daily injections, drop MDI in the comments as well. We'll see what the percentages look like, and I can navigate the conversation based on that. But with the algorithms, they're constantly calculating, trying to determine where blood sugars are going to go, and then making decisions with insulin delivery to help to better your situation, right? So if your insulin pump and CGM combo figure out or think that they figured out that you're going to go high, it's probably going to add some extra insulin. I say probably because it's more complicated than that, right? You also got to consider insulin on board, timing, and all this fun stuff. If you're going low, alternatively, it's probably going to reduce your insulin delivery through basal reduction or removal, right? Now, with these algorithms, they intend well. There's certainly good intentions that were programmed into these things, but they have not solved the diabetes puzzle just yet. And that's what a lot of the conversation on this last week's episode is about, is me turning off my algorithm and running some experiments on myself. And of course, as I like to do, and I will be doing more of in the near future, sharing the results of my constant diabetes experiments on myself, and also those that my clients are doing on themselves in our newsletter. So if you're not part of the newsletter yet, you got to jump in. If you want info on that, drop a comment with the word newsletter, and either I or my team will reach out, get you some more info on that. It is the only place that I publish those experiments. So it's the one place you got to grab them. Now, as far as what we're learning right now is the reactive nature of the algorithms getting in the way of our planned meals and delivering some uncertain situations, which is where the title came from. See, when the insulin pumps are making their own decisions and then you make your own decisions, well, you got two different brains trying to control blood sugars that aren't communicating, right? So if you don't know what your pump is doing, if you don't know what the insulin pens are calculating, it's difficult to make well-informed decisions. And so as a result, I decided, hey, you know what? To heck with it. I'm going to go ahead and just turn it all off and see how I fare. And in this last week's podcast episode, I keep saying that, but you got to go watch it. It was a good one. I shared how turning off the algorithms actually improved my time in range by 2 whole percentages. And I know 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you start at 94% and go to 96% for a whole week, it's actually kind of a lot. So it was shocking to me as well to see that control actually improved. And anxiety, I would say, declined, which was impressive. The reason that I noticed anxiety going up and down was the uncertainty behind blood sugars when expectations do not match the realities that we're in, right? So if I haven't delivered insulin in 5 hours, and yet out of nowhere, my blood sugars just start tanking and I'm sitting at my desk, my thought is, oh no, what just happened? Why am I going low, right? And it's turns out it's because the pump would be delivering insulin. And maybe I was higher than the algorithm wanted me to be. And so it gave me extra insulin. And now I'm going to bottom out because I got up to go for a run or something, right? And as a result, it would be frustrating. And so I was like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Turn it off. We got a question from Hillary. What's going on, Hillary? Hillary says, was there a defining moment that caused you to think to turn off Control-IQ? Yes. Although I wouldn't say defining, it was my rule, as Hillary is very familiar with, is the rule of 3. So I had 3 days in a row where 2 out of 3 meals, I was going low before the meal even started. Like I'd be making dinner going low. And I'm like, what the heck is this? I haven't delivered insulin yet. And recognized that over the course of those 3 days, that the 2 to 3 meals, it was lunchtime and dinner time, the drops were as a result of Control-IQ kicking in, giving me extra insulin that I guess technically I needed, but I didn't really need. And what I talked about in this last podcast episode was the aggressive nature of algorithms to prove their usage, right? To prove their assistance helpful. And that's what makes it frustrating, right? Where we've got these algorithms that are marketed as tools to increase time in range, to lower your A1C. And to do that, it has to aggressively pursue that goal in order to accomplish it on a metrics sheet to show you that like the math makes sense. It is actually making your life better. But the issue is that it's a reactive formula. And in our programs, we teach proactive versus reactive formulas. Proactive is obviously best if you can plan it out, you calculate it beforehand, and then everything just works out perfectly. You know, you go eat pizza and blood sugar stay stable. Hooray. Now the pump, you go eat pizza, it goes wild, and then it comes back into range. And you're like, well, it wasn't as good, but it's kind of like magic because the pump helped me get back into a good range, right? But the issue is that with it being reactive, it is delayed oftentimes. So it takes hours upon hours to bring you back into range. So proactive strategies, proactive formulas will always be better. Okay, so that's the first tip. But to Hillary's question, the answer is yes, after 3 days of noticing trends of drops right before I would eat, and honestly, quite frustrating. The first 2 experiences of this led to lows, like actual lows. And for those of you who know me, I'm not a fan of low blood sugars. I don't. Anybody else not like low blood sugars? Maybe it's just me, but I mean, give me a comment if. Hey, let's do this. I hate lows. Comment, I hate lows if you hate them as much as I do. I would prefer to be high if I could choose. It's much easier to continue on with life if you're high versus lower. It's like red light, can't do anything, give me juice, right? So with me, we got somebody. Hillary says not a fan, love it. With me being opposed to low blood sugars, I was quite frustrated when twice I had actual low blood sugars. And if you don't know this about me, my control is pretty stable. I don't want to like boast about it, but I go low maybe like once every couple months nowadays. And so to have 2 in a single day, I was like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And I was able to reverse engineer, look at the data. And of course it was as a result of Control-IQ pushing more insulin than I needed. And it was kind of frustrating. So that 3 days of data, I found the pattern, said, you know what, we're killing it. I still do use Control IQ for sleep mode, so I use it at night. I find it helpful there in the off chance that I miscalculated something. I'm still able to gather a little bit of sleep, though I will say it's incredibly difficult to sleep with an 11-month-old in the room, but we're learning. We're learning. So with that, that's where that decision was made, and as a result, decided to turn into an experiment. And that's what I'll be sharing with our newsletter. So again, if you want to get info on our physical newsletter, it's exclusive. It's only shipped to those who are on the list. Then go ahead and type the word newsletter and we'll get you some info on that. But part of that experiment for me has been eye-opening, where I discovered that my blood sugars are significantly more stable in the absence of Control IQ. However, I'm going to add this in. However, that's because I put the work in. That's because I already know what I'm doing. I have my toolbox all filled out. I know exactly which tools I can pull from to keep blood sugar stable. I've used the updated methods for refreshing my basal rates, my bolus ratios, my correction factors. The updated methods allow me to have more flexibility throughout my days, to have more consistent blood sugars. So because of that, I was able to turn off Control IQ or any algorithm really and actually see stable blood sugars. So with that caveat, I want you to understand that if you were to go, well, Matt says all the algorithms suck and then we should all just turn them off and go to manual mode. Hold your horses. Not everyone's going to have the same experience where you're going to have better control and more stability and more peace of mind and hooray, right? Most people do not have their insulin set properly. Whether you're MDI or on an insulin pump or whatever delivery of medication you're using, it's probably not fine-tuned, probably not precise, right? And that's one of the big issues in the medical industry these days is whether it's the doctor's fault or not, I think that a lot of times they just don't have the time to dedicate to us, because getting these things fine-tuned takes effort, takes time, takes dedication, and takes passion, right? I would argue that one of the main reasons I am able to get my clients such great results is because I am so driven and so passionate about these things. And truth be told, I love geeking out on blood sugars. I love going over CGM reports and doing the math and solving problems. It's my favorite thing. Okay? I absolutely love it. So as a result, my clients get to see a more detailed picture as we zoom in, fix blood sugars, and then zoom out, and then, whoa, it's stable for the whole day. That's why. So all of that being said, do not misconstrue this message. I'm not saying if you turn off the pump algorithms or throw away your smart insulin pens that your diabetes is going to be easier. It's not the case for most people. However, because I had done the work, because those things were already set, I did notice more stable blood sugars because I could fall back on my settings being set properly, my strategies that I have already implemented. All right, so I want to make sure that's clear. But in addition to that, what I did want to point out is that as I turned off the algorithms, the reason it was more stable is that I had less inputs. And that's one of the big factors here, is that the less inputs you have with your diabetes management, the more consistent your results will be, even if they are consistently worse, right? So if you, let's say you carb count, you take your insulin, and you go to bed. Well, if that's the only inputs, it's a simpler equation. It's when you add in carb count, take your insulin, go for a run at night for some reason, then come back home, go to the jacuzzi. What else can we do? Get super stressed out because you have a work meeting the next day. Like, all these different inputs are going to make your diabetes math equation significantly more complicated. And that's where the algorithms come into play and try to rescue the day, because they're like, oh my gosh, your blood sugars are wacky. Let's try and solve it, right? So as a result, these algorithms are playing catch up. But for the average user who has not fine-tuned their diabetes, it's helpful. It is an assist to their blood sugar management. And though it does take hours in many cases to bring it back into range, it does come back into range, versus those who would do nothing and allow blood sugars to run rampant. That's where you're going to see an improved metric. You're going to see, oh my goodness, my time in range went up. Or, while I was sleeping, my blood sugars came back into range. And as a result, my A1C is lower. These algorithms are amazing. But on a day-to-day function, we look at the graphs and the details of the analytics and what's truly going on. These algorithms are introducing new inputs. If you go just a little bit higher than you would like, insulin, it's thrown at it. If you go just barely under the target blood sugar, take off all the insulin. Like, it's very aggressive in that sense. because it is reactive. So I'm not saying that the algorithms were programmed incorrectly, but they're inefficient, right? It wasn't meant to replace you. It wasn't meant to fix you. It was meant to help. That's it. So understanding that these algorithms are in place to make life with diabetes a little bit less annoying, make it suck a little bit less. It's by no means going to fix you. And in some cases, it may even make it more difficult because there's new inputs being added to your diabetes equations that you might not even be aware of. I'll give you a prime example of this. A lot of my clients come to me and they're like, I don't understand why my blood sugars go high 3 hours after the meal. I counted my carbs, it took my insulin, did my pre-bolus, and I'm like, okay, let's pull up your graphs, let's pull up your data, right? Let's look into your pump. We pull up the pump data, and right at the bottom of the screen, we can see that the pump had actually reduced their basal to 0 because their blood sugars were so perfect. And in case you don't know what that math looks like, for most pumps that target blood sugars, we're looking at 110, 120, 140, 150, like somewhere in that range for like auto mode, Control-IQ, Omnipod 5. And as a result, if your blood sugars are cruising at 95, it's going to either reduce or remove your basal insulin. So when they go to pre-bolus, they're telling their pump, hey, here's a bunch of insulin for food that I'm going to eat. And the pump sees 95 and goes, you could potentially go really low. Like this could go into a bad situation. So just to make sure you're most prepared for this, we're going to remove all of the insulin that is your basal. And as a result, you're missing, 30 minutes to an hour's worth of basal insulin, where that's 2-3 hours later, you're going to see an impact after the bolus insulin has been delivered and is gone. So these algorithms mean well. They're trying to save you from a low. Most people, if they're at 95 and they deliver a full-time meal bolus, there is a threat of going low because most people don't know how to fine-tune their pre-bolus. And most people don't understand that the pre-bolus changes on a meal-to-meal basis. Oh, that's a little tip for you guys. So what the pumps are doing is truly trying to help. But the reality is if you know what you're doing and you can kind of feather the blood sugars right at 95, even with a mealtime bolus, and avoid your mealtime spike entirely, and you stay at 95 the whole time, your pump's going to freak out and go, they're for sure going to go low, right? So we have to protect them. So it removes that basal insulin. And as a result, hours later, you go high. You think it's your fault. Did I not count my carbs correctly? Did I not take enough insulin? Is my insulin to carb ratio off? We start blaming ourselves for all these things when in fact, it was the algorithm. The algorithm, in its attempt to help us, ended up screwing us, right? And that's what I want you guys to be aware of. So first of all, if this is making sense, I just saw a couple likes and loves get smashed. Smash the like button real quick so that the algorithms in the platform here know to promote this video. Algorithms are everywhere, in case you didn't know that. But go ahead, smash the like button for me real quick if this is helpful, if this makes sense, so that other people know to come check this out as well. But what I want you to understand here, like big picture, is that the algorithms were built to help, not to replace. That is the key, right? And if you're able to work in tandem, pun intended, because I wear a tandem pump. If you're able to work together with these algorithms, whether it's with an insulin pump or a smart insulin pen that's making suggestions for you, right? It can be a beautiful thing. Now, right now, I'm playing with turning it off. I want to see what happens. I want to see what kind of differences there are so that I can give that information to you. And of course, more in depth, give that to my newsletter subscribers and talk about all my findings. But more importantly here, I want to see what it looks like if I were to remove the algorithms entirely. Because if I ever wanted to switch back to MDI or multiple daily injections, I have that confidence in knowing what to expect. And knowing what to expect makes a huge difference in all of our plans. If we're absolutely able to predict what's going to happen, we have that certainty, that confidence behind it that enables us to live our best lives and not live in the constant checkup of, well, what are my blood sugars? Okay, they're fine. Wait, what are my blood sugars? Okay, they're fine. Wait, blood sugars, right? I've seen this time and time again. My blood sugars are fine. My A1C looks good. My time in range is great. But I check my Dexcom or my Freestyle Libre or my Eversense every 5 to 15 minutes. I have to keep a close eye on it in order to stay controlled. That's no way to live your life, right? That's not fun. So I'm going to check in on the comments. We got a bunch of people here. All right, let's see who we got. Oh, you guys smashed the like button. I love it. We got not a fan from Hillary. Joe says, I hate Lowe's. Love it. Bev says, not a fan either. And most of us don't like Lowe's, I think. Angela says, hi. Angela says, I have type 1 diabetes. Me too. I think most of us do here. So you are welcome. You're in the right spot. Hillary says, take a shower, then it goes down. Joe says, I'm moving from MDI to a pump later today, Australia time. Whoa, we got a person. This is a perfect live to hop in for. I hope I'm not scaring you away. I want to make sure that you guys understand pumps are still very helpful. In my opinion, pumps allow for a tighter control because you can fine tune all of the settings and be really precise about it, deliver micro doses of insulin. They're fantastic, but they do not replace us. We have to do the work still. Right? We have to know what's going on. So that's awesome, Joe. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to chat with you on experiences. Hillary says, fantastic. Oh, she's replying to Joe. You're in the right place. My blood sugar smoothed out significantly when I switched over to a pump. Bill says, like, awesome. Hillary says, have you spoken or met other T1Ds who have also successfully turned off their algorithms with the improvement in time and range? And Kim says, hi, guys. Good seeing y'all. So Hillary, yes, this entire conversation, if you are someone or anybody, if you've listened to the podcast episode from this week, and maybe I'll put it in the comments or something, or you can just check our YouTube or any of the stuff, FTF Warrior. But this whole conversation was actually spurred on by one of my clients, a previous graduate of our program, Diabetes in Action, reached out and was like, the algorithms are driving me insane. Like, what the heck? Yeah, have you seen this? And I was like, actually. And this individual had reached out and said that the algorithms were indeed making some of these aggressive decisions, and it was frustrating. The blood sugars were fluctuating wildly. Yes, they were technically in range, but they were bouncing up and down quite a bit. And that's what I hear very often is that, yes, my time in range increased when I jumped on these algorithms, but blood sugar is just going up and down and up and down. So it looks good on paper, but then you get to the day-to-day and you're like, yeah, but I had insulin and then snacks and then insulin and then snacks. And I just all day blood sugar roller coaster. So that individual had a chat with me and is actually switching off of the pump, I think it was switching back to MDI. At the very least, was turning the algorithm off, and I believe had seen an improvement same day. And so, yes, I've had a few clients reach out with similar stories. Again, not to say that everyone should do this. The algorithms are helpful. I am not telling you have to turn them off and they're like of the devil or something crazy. But if you know what you're doing, and that's the big caveat. If you've worked with us, you understand blood sugar formulas. You're in a good spot. You can probably turn it off and be in a good spot. You know, you've likely built those strategies into place. If you haven't worked with me directly, if you haven't learned about our blood sugar formulas, I would be hesitant to turn them off because it might not end in an improvement of time and range right off the bat. It would likely be a learning curve in those cases. Not to say it's impossible, but use caution. And that's a big piece of what I tell people as well. You know, you're more than welcome to make your own changes in your diabetes management and your medication. Like, we're one of the few patients that are told, hey, you make your own medication choices. You change your dosages and let us know how it goes. And that's what the doctors tell us, right? I would say make changes slowly. Double check your work, triple check your calculations, then make your changes. Unless, of course, you have worked with us, then you know how to do that safely. And that's a big part of what we teach. So Roxia says low now. Oh, bummer. Hillary says it's also really good to be proficient with MDI, even when you have a pump in case there is a pump malfunction. Absolutely. We get another one. Sarah says, I give insulin by shot, so honestly would love a pump or something. You know, there's benefits to both. And we could do a whole talk on that as well, but today we're kind of running out of time. So MDI versus pump, there are benefits to both. There's cons to both, as we're discussing today. But with keeping blood sugar stable in uncertain situations, the main topic of today's live really is looking at what are the factors that are invisible. What are things that we might not be considering with our higher blood sugars or our lower blood sugars? We see a high blood sugar, we think, I had too many carbs. I didn't take enough insulin. Did your pump remove basal insulin for an hour because you had a good blood sugar beforehand? Maybe that was why, right? I'm introducing these new topics that you might not have considered because literally no other medical team is talking about this. They think still that the algorithms are here to save the day. and to a certain extent they are, but there are pros and cons with everything, including the new diabetes technology. Dexcom, Freestyle Libre, the Eversense, the Guardian, all these CGMs, fantastic technology. Absolutely love it. I wouldn't want to live without it. So where is the con? It's all pros, right? The con is that I don't think I could live without it. That's the con. I'm dependent on this technology now, right? I have to keep paying for it. Another con is the obsession. We have numbers every 1 to 5 minutes. So we check our blood sugars every 1 to 5 minutes in some cases. That's not a good quality of life, right? So there are pros and cons to everything. Sarah says, what's that? I've never heard of that. Get an iPort. I love mine. Okay, yeah, you guys can chat about that in the comments. It's a whole thing. iPort is a different discussion. We've got lots of topics with diabetes, which is why I love doing these lives, because I could literally talk every single day and give you guys new information, which is what our coaching programs are all about. So I hope this one was helpful. Feel free to drop comments in here. Got somebody else. Sarah said, I've been diabetic for 14 years. It's been an annoying roller coaster lately. A lot of times we've hit those moments, right, where it's like, I've been diabetic for so long. Why don't I have it figured out yet? Why are my blood sugars not cooperating? When is it supposed to smooth out? When do I hit my stride and really figure this thing out? And unfortunately, it doesn't unless we put the work in. Nobody's coming to save us. And that took me over a decade to figure out. I was waiting for my doctor and my endo to fix me. And I was like, hey, here's my blood sugars. Just, can you do magic? Can you fix them, whatever's going on? And after a decade, I was like, why am I not fixed yet? Right? Like, why are my blood sugars still roller coastering, like Sarah mentioned? And the reality is that we have to take control of it ourselves. It's a sad reality. It's frustrating. We didn't ask for this, right? But no one's coming to save us. No one's going to do it for us. And no one knows us better than us. So it does fall on us to make our own decisions, to do our own research, to, jump into groups like this to learn more about this disease. And that's the whole point. What we're doing here. So you guys are having chats in the comments. I love it. So if you have questions on this, feel free to drop questions. And as far as keeping blood sugar stable in uncertain situations, I want you to start thinking about what are the invisible factors that we're not considering, right? It took us years to recognize the fact that delayed high blood sugars could be because of the algorithm. Onset of lows could be because of the algorithms. It might not even be your fault. And the issue beyond that is that the algorithms are operating inside this little box that can't see what you're doing. So if you are going to use the algorithms, you got to learn how to coexist, right? How to work in tandem with those things. No matter what pump it is. I know I say in tandem, it's a phrase, right? But with Tandem, with Medtronic, with Omnipod, with Ipso, with all these different insulin pumps or different smart insulin pens or even syringes, you got to figure out how to work best with what you got. That's what it boils down to. All right. So another question here. Hillary says, when you turn off Control IQ, do you also do any adjustments with your basal rates? Like when you drop low while making dinner? Good question. When I turned off Control IQ, so right now Control IQ is off, I believe. It is off. Yep. Those who are in our program know that we run very specific formulas. We have methods for your basal rates, your bolus ratios, your correction factors. So I personally went through what I teach. I actually practice what I preach and was able to redo essentially my insulin settings. So I went back to my pump and was like, all right, where is Control IQ making up for any missing insulin, or where is it taking away additional insulin? How can I make these adjustments manually so that my pump is set and good to go, and I can have confidence in the pump in the absence of an algorithm? And that's what it boils down to, is having these things mapped out yourself. So that, like someone else said earlier on, what happens if your pump malfunctions and you have to go back to MDI? Are you confident that you could do that, right? What happens if your insurance changes and you have to go to an insulin pump and you were an MDI before? Are you confident in how to do that, right? If you know the tools and you have the full toolbox, you can adapt, you can pivot to just about any situation. That's what I want for you guys, to be able to live your life, not be locked in to specific diets or lifestyles or schedules. Like, you should be able to do what you want if everything is controlled properly. And that's the key. So if you have things rolling as they should be, if you got your rates set, if you understand your blood sugar formulas, you have your personalized macronutrient profile set, all this stuff we teach in here, then you can live your life on your terms. Does that sound good? Cool. So this whole topic, the mealtime madness, keeping blood sugar stable in uncertain situations, I'm going to be doing a full write-up over the next week and send that out to our newsletter crew. So we got Kim says, I agree, Matt. Awesome. Sarah says, I'll talk to my new doctor tomorrow. Cool. I'm doing a whole write-up, like a whole article on my experiments and on what's going to be going on with the algorithm being turned off and turned on, and what I prefer, what I learn, and what I recommend in the next newsletter. So if you haven't already subscribed to that, I know we've already got a ton of you that are in that newsletter's list. But you can go ahead and comment newsletter. Like I said, we'll reach out, get you info on that to make sure you don't miss the next month's newsletter. We've already been doing it for 6 months, and it's been a blast because we started adding in some additional bonuses we don't talk about in here. But everybody who's part of the Renegade tribe knows what I'm talking about. Hillary says, your algorithm podcast this week was mind-blowing. Thanks for describing the experiment with turning off Control IQ. Thanks so much, Hillary. Appreciate that. Everybody else, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope these are helpful for you. And feel free to post comments, questions, even in the Facebook group itself. I'll try and hop in and comment and give answers where I can, as often as I can when I'm checking in. Be sure to smash that like button so people know. Come check it out. Other than that, have a fantastic rest of your week. And I'll catch you guys next week, every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I got to hop into another meeting with one of my clients. But you guys have been awesome. Thank you for participating. Fun seeing the comments. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep up the fight. Bye.